Hi, this is Bob Law, and welcome to Bob Law Now, my podcast. And I have a guest today that I'm really anxious to have a conversation with, Betty Dopson, who's working with Simotep all of these years. And Simotep actually has a national reputation. I want to talk about media and the impact what media does that is offensive to African people. And need Betty to help me explain what we are concerned about with media, with song lyrics, with offensive media. Betty Dopson, who is one of the founders, I believe she is the co-founder of Simotep. And so, Betty, I'm glad to have you with me on this new venture of podcasting. We've always been engaged with broadcasting. Now we are now podcasters, and so welcome to this conversation with me.
Oh, Bob, listen, this is my pleasure. I'm honored. First of all, you're an icon. Folks have looked up to you. They beat you up, beat you down, brought you up, and hugged you and kissed but you hang in there, brother. So I am delighted to be here with you, and you look good too.
Yeah.
So let's see what we're going to come up with here.
All right. That's just for people around the country now who are hearing these conversations and learning about some of the things that, particularly what you have already been engaged in. Let's kind of walk through some of it, what your Simotep, what that means, and the vision for Simotep.
It is an acronym for Committee to Eliminate Media Offensive to African People. And most media is offensive to African people. So CMOTAP, for the last 32 years, we have been fighting in our own grassroots way of bringing an understanding to Black folks how damaging this is to us as a people, and also helping people understand there are things that we can do. We have power, we just don't use it. You are a classic example of how media can be used to elevate the ideas and the ideals of Black people. So we have one of the most important things that we do, in addition to having demonstrations and sit-ins and all that sort of thing, is that we bring before our people leaders who understand where we are in terms of media and the things that we can do. So we feature media leaders. We try our very best to financially support media leaders, because very often they're kicked in the behind when they start to really fight for their people. And we haven't stepped away from media, but we've expanded what we do. During the pandemic, we provided food items and necessary items to our members. We have had a radio broadcast, and we still do. And we also have, a newsletter that is not coming out as frequently as we would like it. Everything costs money. So we've been in the struggle in many ways to help people understand that we're too important to this world to allow people like Donald Trump and some of these other fools that he has in his cabinet to disrespect us. So that's just a capsule of what we do.
Yeah, it's difficult to only do a capsule because Simotep has been on the front line with dealing in support of the media, as well as it's important to understand that Simotep is not just in the front line of protesting what has a track record with the way that the media treats Black people, but it has also helped in the early days of what Black media existed. That Black media is no longer there. There used to be, I know, and then people in Bernie Hayes out in St. Louis and other cities around the country, Washington, D.C., on WOL, WRD in Philadelphia. There was Black media. And I don't know how. Now, I know that some of them, like WRD, is still functioning, and as far as I understand it, is functioning well with Black talk and information. But there was, to take it all the way back, there was, when I came into radio, the premier Black talk show in the city. in New York City was by a brother named Bernie McCain. And he did a radio show called Tell It Like It Is. Did you in New York at that time?
No, no, I wasn't. I
Right.
came out.
Yeah. He did. And then I think there's a brother named Del Shields. And as
Oh,
I said, there was in New York, but there was talk radio to some extent in Philadelphia. I don't know all the other cities at this point, but and then gave television. And when we gave it away to television, there for a minute there was a lot of black talk radio. I mean television, like it is away from, but that was Bernie McCain's idea, and ABC and Gil Noble then took that and claimed, I guess, that was their idea, but it was Bernie McCain. Then it was Like It Is. There was everybody had a show. Alma John had a TV pro. You remember any of those?
oh yeah. I certainly remember Sister John.
Yeah, she was there. Bill McCreary,
Yeah.
Creary was there. Had a talk show. Uh,
Yes.
I think every station in the city had a show except WABC, not ABC, except CBS. CBS said that they were not going to commit any commitment to they were not going to make any commitment to black people. That they had a thing called Set Eye on New York, and that would be we would give the black community 7 minutes once a day, not a day, on one day on Saturday, that they would and that would be sufficient. But all the other shows were had a black format. During that time, you Simultap, I don't Simultap was not functioning at that moment, right? Or were those shows still uh,
Oh yes, that, and we supported him, particularly Gil Noble.
right?
A few times he was, I've been told by people who knew that he was going to be scuttled because they thought that his content was a little too black, a little bit too strong. And
Mhm.
so, Simotap, we said, okay, what we'll do, we'll fund the program because we met with some of the executives. And they said that Gil's program they couldn't make any money on it. You got to have sponsors. We said, we'll sponsor it. We will organize the black community and we'll sponsor it. And so we did. We got the money together and we took it to the station. And the young man that we were dealing with, they fired him immediately because he thought that if it's written that you have a sponsor, then your sponsor could have a program. But we found out very quickly that was not the case.
That's
So
right.
and Gil, as he was in the middle of it, and they accused him of everything, accused him of trying to, denigrate the importance of WABC, and it should be open widely to all people, all races, all ethnicities. Fine, fine. But we thought we deserved a little more positive attention for the things that we were doing. That was just one of the many struggles that we were involved in.
And one of the things that we learned as for instance, when I came into radio as the public affairs director, and it's when I learned that ABC at that time had a commitment, FCC commitment to provide programming that didn't need it didn't have to be sponsored, and that is how I was able to put a 30-minute show weekly for Reverend Daughtry in Brooklyn, in New
Yes,
York City, but within the context of that public affairs commitment, I guess could be called. But they were being a little bit dishonest about what what they were supposed to have been providing for their community all the time. Which it is, but the trickery is still going on. For instance, right now, there's a campaign that Simotep is leading right now around Netflix. Can we talk a little bit about that?
oh, yes, we can. Netflix is a very large organization, plenty of money and plenty of sponsors. But they have, along with one of our excellent basketball players, they created a reboot of Good Times. Now, we all used to watch Good Times. It wasn't exactly Good Times, it featured a black family, mother, father, sisters, kids, and it represented who we were a little bit more of a comedic way, but at least it didn't just degrade us. Well, this reboot shows us as worthless, as useless, as criminals, drunkards, drug addicts, even babies as drug addicts. This reboot of Netflix is absolutely horrible. It shows a man and a woman involved in sex. It shows a young girl on her menses, and she uses her blood to write on the board in school, board where you put your, the teachers use things on. And then she turns and she flings some of this blood into the face of a black male student. It the most disrespectful anything that you could possibly call a comedy. We have been simultap on the east. We have a simultap on the west coast, and simultap in Ohio. So we've been working together to try to get this ridiculous depiction of us off the air. Now, the folks that we have been in contact with, of course, they've chosen to ignore us, and that's usually the way it happens. But once you get enough of a blowback, enough of the people that are saying this has got to go, then you will begin to see some action towards having it removed. Right now, one of the basketball players, his name is Curry, excellent basketball player. I might not do a good job of describing it because I'm not so much into sports, but even I know that this young man is an excellent athlete.
Yeah.
Why he would allow his name to be connected to something so negative, so ridiculous, we can't figure out. We can't get an answer from him, and we cannot get an answer from Netflix. But we are not giving up. As a matter of fact, this weekend, Steph Curry, he's going to be at Madison Square Garden. We're going to have people there passing out flyers and demonstrating and telling him that he has to back up, apologize, and stop this nonsense. And we also, there's a center in Brooklyn. I forget the name of it. It's new, and he's going to be playing there also on the weekend. And we're going to have people there protesting and trying to get him to see how destructive that, I guess you want to call it a comedy, but that program is. And it's a series. So
Oh,
I that they are going, if there isn't enough blowback and enough people saying hell no, then they're going to continue this series, this disgraceful, disruptive, terrible series.
and this show, what is this called? This is also called Good Times.
Yep, Good Times.
It's a reboot of Good Times.
And
And
some of the former actors and actresses have spoken out against it, but not as forcefully as
yeah,
we hope that they would.
yeah, yeah. The and it's on there right now,
Oh yes, and
but it comes through Netflix. I
it
see.
it is a Netflix series, a
Hmm.
production, and it's their way of telling the world that we are useless, that we contribute nothing to society, that the women are mostly whores or whorish, and that babies shooting guns and selling dope in
Yeah,
this Netflix thing called Good
yeah.
Times.
We're talking with Bobby. I was going to say, but for Betty Dopson. Betty Dopson, one of the co-founders of Simultip, and we are so pleased to be able to have this conversation with you. Let me just talk a little bit about your concern for the lyrics that are still being broadcast in commercial media, all media really, particularly when you talk about that particular Good Times show, it sounds like we still have the same concern for the lyric content right now on commercial radio. Not only just commercial, but yes, not only commercial radio, but from music at all, music radio. Maybe you want to talk a little bit what's going on with the lyrics?
Well, Bob, I'll start here. If you have the wherewithal to show something over and over and over to a people who have no real way of responding, you will lose control of what your young people hear. You lose control of how they react to the music and the lyrics. Now, if you show through your music lyrics that men, black men particularly, can to their female counterparts, I guess I'll use that term. Um, it's that B word is used to describe black women, and it's used by black men. It's used by black men because they can make money disrespecting their women. They don't think about how, terrible this is to use these words to describe your mother, your grandmother, your sisters, your aunts, and what have you. They just know that they've seen it over and over and over till it's no longer shocking anymore. They're getting away with it, and they're making money with it, and they are also coming up more creative ways to disrespect the white, and not the white, the black women. Now, we have written to use Netflix again. You would never see a broadcast where Jewish women are described by the B word. It just wouldn't happen. You would never see a cartoon of a Jewish girl throwing menstrual blood into the face of a young boy. These things just don't happen. It happens to us because we have been bombarded with it by people with money who know that they can make money by disrespecting black people in general. And so they do so to the point that now we are not as offended as we should be. There are some black people, very few, I hope, who would say, oh, it's just a comedy, you know, that we don't need to get ourselves, bent out of shape because it's a comedy. It's much more than a comedy. It's creating a lifestyle. And that lifestyle has almost gotten out of control. You can make, and we used to hear raps that were not filled with filthy words and disrespect for women. We used to hear raps that used creative ways of expressing what was in their minds and the things that they were doing. That no longer exists. And if you watch some of the comedians, and I'll just name them because I've watched them in the past myself. I've had to pull myself away, like Cat Williams. Every other word is MF, MS. I mean, you can be funny without, doing all those terrible things.
And we
So
always wonder if they can be any other way. But I'm
they
sorry, but
can be. They can be. Don, look at what you thing. Why can't I think of difficulty finding words here because age just wrapped itself around my brain. Bill Cosby. The man never cursed. He was extremely comedic, extremely humorous. But now the comedians feel that they have to use all of these curse words in order to get over. It's sad. And that's what we're facing. But even though they have more money, more resources, more everything, we'll win because we know what we're doing is right. You don't have to disrespect your mother and your sisters and your aunts in order for you to make a joke. You don't have to do that.
and you don't have to do that with the music. Lyrics is a real concern. The
Mhm.
lyrics saying things that are outrageous and talking about women in particular. This some of the lyrics, I would say at this point, it is almost most of the lyrics are so offensive. But as you were pointing out, that there are a lot of people who have allowed it to become normalized. People accepting that kind of content. Let me just ask you this. We talked about, got to move a little bit quicker, I think. We're having a conversation about protest, and I think that what we're hearing is that there's a need for us as a people to continue to protest, but we have to move beyond only protest. Right now, we only protest, and every other ethnic group in the country really is more focused on owning something, not just protesting, not just proud of the fact that black people spend more money every year. That really doesn't mean anything when other groups have now hair salons and bodegas and even banks rather. that there's your own feelings about where we should be right now, just in terms of trolling what happens in our own community, and not just be protesting, which leaves us without, still, it seems to me, leaves us without power.
Listen, Bob, you have been on that issue for years now. Ownership, that's where we can look for some relief. But the dreadful thing about this is when we get to a position where we own, I'll say, an important part of media, we carve out a little space for ourselves. It seems as if it's very difficult for us to continue to support that particular man, person, or entity that's trying to do what we have to do, and that is have own our own media, can have our own radio stations. There are a few, and that is the core of what we must do as a people in order to not drag, but to put ourselves up to where we actually should be and where we have been in the past. We have fewer businesses now than we had 50 years ago. We have fewer radio and television stations than we used to have years ago. I can remember when we had at least 5 different stations. Usually they were held on Sunday or Saturday, but nevertheless, Black people had something that they could go to and hear something about themselves that wasn't exactly something disrespectful. Now, it seems as if the efforts to move us into a position of always on the end of begging or on the end of accepting things that we know does not represent us. Our leaders of today, and maybe you could identify a couple of them for me, because I've lost control. We used to be able to identify our leaders immediately, and we could go to them and we could talk to people. But I don't find that happening now. So it seems as if we're going to make any real inroads into protecting ourselves with the information that's put out about us, that we've got to come together under direct leadership and have the kind of impact that is needed for us to have the role in this society that we deserve and that we used to have. That's not an answer. I don't know what that was, Bob. You asked me for my feelings, and that's what I gave. Now, will my feelings lead to people coming together, uniting around a particular issue? I'm hoping that my voice will help, but we need many voices to come together in order for us to
Absolutely.
recall who we actually are and what we actually want.
It is going to be necessary to have another conversation with you and others that I want to focus on this point about ownership. We are pleased always to learn that we have spent more money every year, but we're the only group in the country that is still bragging about how much money we spend without talking about what we own and control. So there, other people have now, as part of their strategy, is to own, like I said earlier, grocery stores, small, even hair salons, nail salons, all those kind of things, cleaners. There, but we are not yet focused on the need for ownership. I want to have that conversation. We're out of time, but I want to have that conversation. When I look organizing, people have been organizing here in around on a national level. People have been organizing around boycotting
Yes,
the
yes, yes.
Target.
Working.
And say it again.
It's working.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that it was Bill Jones at Bethany Baptist Church in Brooklyn who organized Operation Breadbasket, when he introduced that whole idea with and used not used but worked with Reverend Jackson to introduce that idea. Dr. King brought it up first in his speech in Memphis, but we've run out of time. But we want to have that conversation, and I'm so pleased to have spent time with you. Thank you for being with me.
I'm honored, Bob. You take care, and I look forward to your
Oh,
podcast.